She was the widow of a man who had once drawn a sword against the empire. Past 30. Disgraced. In a court that married its daughters at 12, she had nothing left to trade. And then the Emperor of Hindustan made her his 20th wife. Look at the silver coins of Mughal India. Beside the emperor's name, another is struck into the metal. Hers. The only woman in the whole dynasty ever minted like a ruler. This is not a fairy tale. Ye can still hold the proof in your hand. Her story begins on a road, not in a palace. In the winter of 1577, a Persian family fled the Shah's court, riding east toward the Mughal Empire. Somewhere in the frozen passes near Kandahar, inside a moving caravan, a daughter was born. They had almost nothing. They called her Mehr-un-Nissa, son among women. Her father was a clever, ruined nobleman named Mirza Ghiyas Beg. In the court of the great Emperor Akbar, his gifts were noticed. He rose. Slowly, the refugee became a trusted official, and his sharp-minded daughter was given an education few women of any rank received. Persian poetry, painting, music. The court watched her grow into something rare. At 17, Mehr-un-Nissa was married, not to a prince, to a soldier named Ali Quli, a brave and difficult man posted to distant Bengal. He earned a fierce nickname, Sher Afghan, tiger thrower. She followed him to the humid edge of the empire, far from the marble courts of Agra, and became a provincial soldier's wife. In 1605, she bore a single daughter, Ladli. It would be her only child, a quiet life on the far edge of everything. Then the quiet broke. In 1607, Sher Afghan clashed with the governor of Bengal. Swords were drawn in a courtyard. When the dust settled, her husband lay dead. Some whispered the prince himself had wanted him gone. It was a rumor never proven and doubted by careful historians. What was certain was colder. At 30, she was a widow. Now turn to the other side of the divide. His name was Jahangir, Caesar of the world, fourth emperor of the Mughals, master of a realm richer than any in Europe, lord of a treasury of diamonds and a court of hundreds. He answered to no one. When he wanted a thing, mountains moved, and he had never seen her. Between them lay a gulf that no coin could bridge. He was the living shadow of God on earth. She was the disgraced widow of a dead provincial soldier, past the age when Mughal women married, dependent on the charity of others. There was no ladder from her world to his, none that anyone could see. So the two worlds stood apart. An emperor who owned everything, a widow who owned nothing, and a distance no one expected love to cross. But the widow was not left in the provinces. She was summoned to Agra, into the imperial harem itself, as a lady-in-waiting to Ruqayya, the aged widow of the Emperor Akbar and the most powerful woman behind the palace walls. It was a modest post, a servant's place, yet it set Mehr-un-Nissa inside the very heart of the Mughal court. How the emperor first truly saw her, no one can say for certain. Later storytellers spun a glittering tale, a spring festival, a royal bazaar where noblewomen played at trading, a single glance across the stalls. The story is beautiful. It is also, most likely, legend. The court chronicles are far quieter about the how. What the records do make clear is this. By 1611, the most powerful man in the world had fixed his heart on a widow past 30, not a virgin princess, not a foreign alliance. A woman who had buried a husband and raised a daughter alone, and nothing in his empire could talk him out of it. On a spring day in 1611, they married. He gave her a new name, the way emperors do. First, Nur Mahal, light of the palace, then something greater still, Nur Jahan, light of the world. It was not a pet name whispered in private. It was, the whole court understood, a declaration meant to be heard. Theirs was not a marriage of duty. Jahangir, a man who wrote openly in his own memoirs, made no secret of how completely she held him. He handed her responsibilities no Mughal wife had ever touched. She read, she judged, she advised, and the emperor, for the first time, seemed content to lean on someone else. He had married 19 times before her. He would never look past her again. In her, the Caesar of the world had finally been seized. With her rose her family. Her father, the old refugee, was made chief minister and given a resounding title: Itimad, Oud, Dawla, pillar of the state. Her brother climbed beside him. Within a few years, a small circle of relatives, gathered around one brilliant woman, held the levers of the richest empire on earth. The lady-in-waiting who had once fetched and carried now stood at the center of everything. Yet power drawn this close to a throne pulls enemies in just as tightly, and a woman who held it in the open drew more enemies than any man ever would. The Mughal world was not built for a queen who ruled. A wife might whisper to her husband in private. She might scheme from behind a screen. What she must never do was govern in the open. Nur Jahan did exactly that, and the great men of the court watched a woman step into their light and did not forgive it. So they told a story about her, that she had bewitched a weak, wine-soaked emperor, that she was grasping, cold, a schemer in silk. For centuries, hostile chroniclers painted her as the villain of her own life. It is worth naming plainly, much of what was written against her was written by men who could not accept what she was. And yet the emperor's frailty was real. Jahangir drank. He leaned hard on opium. His health failed him in long, dangerous spells. In his own memoirs, he admitted his dependence on the wine and more on his wife. As he weakened, the daily business of the empire passed quietly into her hands. There was the matter of the future, too. Nur Jahan had her daughter, Ladli, from that first marriage, and she moved to secure her, arranging the girl's wedding to one of the emperor's younger sons. To rival princes, it looked like a bid to steer the succession itself. The court split into factions, watching, waiting. The sharpest break came with Prince Khurram, the brilliant, ambitious son who would one day build the Taj Mahal. Once her ally, bound to her own family by marriage, he came to see the Empress as the single great obstacle between himself and the throne. By the 1620s, the most gifted prince in Hindustan had turned against her. Then Khurram rose in open revolt against his own father. The empire that Nur Jahan had helped steady now cracked along its center. Armies marched. Cities changed hands. And through it all, the aging, ailing emperor depended on his wife not merely to advise him, but to hold his throne together while his own son tried to tear it away. She was a widow the court had once pitied. Now she was fighting to keep an empire from splitting in two. By the middle 1620s, the walls were closing. A rebel son, jealous nobles, a dying husband, chroniclers already sharpening their knives for her memory. Every structure of her world insisted that a woman could hold no real power of her own, that whatever she had, she held only as the shadow of the man beside her. And that was the question that hung over everything. When the emperor was too ill to rule, too weak to be obeyed, would there be anything of her own left standing? Anything with her name on it that the world would be forced to honor? The answer was already being struck. In silver. Between 1623 and 1627, something happened that had never happened in the long history of the Mughal Empire. The imperial mints began striking gold and silver coins, the money of the whole realm bearing the name of a woman, not a goddess, not a memory, a living empress, her name, Nur Jahan, passed hand to hand across an empire. To feel the shock, you have to understand the law. In the Islamic world, two things marked a true sovereign: the coinage that carried your name and the decrees issued under your seal. They were the technical fingerprints of a ruler. And now, on both, appeared the name of a woman who had once carried another woman's things. It was not only the coins, royal commands, farmans, went out across Hindustan under her own seal. Grants of land, appointments, orders that governors obeyed without question. Historians would later write that, but for a single ritual prayer said in the emperor's name, she held every privilege of a reigning monarch. In all but title, she ruled. One woman, her name in the silver of an empire. In 1,000 years of Mughal and Persian kings, it had belonged to no queen before her. The words pressed into the metal were almost tender, that the coin had gained 100 splendors by bearing the name of Nur Jahan the Queen. Coins like these still survive in collections around the world. You can look at them today, small, worn discs of silver, and a woman's name that history was never supposed to record. She did not use the power to hide, she used it. She lowered burdens for the struggling. She protected women cast out with nowhere to go, arranging marriages and dowries for orphaned girls. She designed gardens and buildings. She threw the weight of an empire behind people who had no weight of their own. Her reach ran far past the palace walls. She held trading rights, owned ships, dealt with the European merchants pressing into Mughal ports. Foreign visitors wrote home, astonished, about the Empress who signed the orders and set the prices. The refugee's daughter, born on a frozen road, now bent the commerce of an empire to her will. The divide that was never meant to be crossed had not just been crossed, it had been erased, pressed flat into silver, sealed in wax, obeyed from Kabul to Bengal. The widow of a dead soldier had become, in every way that could be measured, a king. And still, at the center of it, there was the marriage. They were rarely apart. She hunted at his side, and here the record turns almost to legend. On one hunt, the emperor wrote proudly in his own memoirs, his wife brought down 4 tigers with a handful of shots, aiming from the swaying back of an elephant. Only kings hunted tigers. It was the theater of raw power, forbidden to ordinary hands. Jahangir showered her with diamonds for the feat, and a court poet, watching, is said to have declared that though she was formed a woman, among men she was a slayer of tigers. The line was meant as the highest praise. Her devotion was tested in fire. In 1626, the rebel general Muhammad Khan seized the emperor himself and held him captive. Nur Jahan could have fled to safety. She did not. She rode into the armed camp on a war elephant to reach her husband, was captured at his side, and refused to leave him. Prison did not hold her mind. From inside captivity, patiently, invisibly, she worked, winning over soldiers, gathering loyalties, planning, and she engineered their escape from under the very nose of the man who had taken them. The general who had captured an emperor was outmaneuvered by the emperor's wife, quietly, completely. He had married a woman past 30 that no one else wanted. She had just freed him from a rebel's chains. But some captivities cannot be escaped. In the autumn of 1627, worn down by years of illness, Jahangir died in the mountains of Kashmir, the country he loved most. The man who had raised a widow to the height of an empire was gone, and the moment his breath stopped, everything she had built stood in danger. The throne passed to Prince Khurram, now crowned Shah Jahan. He had not forgotten his years as her rival. Swiftly, coldly, he stripped the old empress of power. Her allies fell. Her coins stopped. She was given a pension and a quiet corner of Lahore, and told, in every way that mattered, that her reign was over. The name that once rode the empire's silver was pulled from the mints. The light of the world was sent to sit in the dark. But she did not vanish quietly into grief. In her long widowhood she turned to stone and marble. She had already raised, for her parents, a jewel box of a tomb on the river at Agra, the first great Mughal building sheathed entirely in white marble, delicate as lace. Today the world calls it the Baby Taj. It was far more than a tomb. That shimmering white marble, that fine inlaid stone, marked the turning point in Mughal art. The road that led, only a few years later, to the Taj Mahal itself. The Empress they tried to erase had quietly drawn the blueprint for the most famous building on earth. Her taste set in stone. For her husband, she built one last thing, a great tomb at Lahore, to hold the emperor who had lifted her out of nothing. She had loved him in power and in weakness, in triumph and in captivity. Now she laid him to rest beneath her own design, and turned to wait for the end of her own long story. Nur Jahan died in 1645, after nearly 2 decades in the shadows, and was buried in a tomb she had built for herself in Lahore. Upon it, tradition holds, are words she chose, that on the grave of this poor stranger there should be neither lamp nor rose, neither the burning wing of a moth, nor the song of a nightingale. No lamp, no rose, no nightingale. The loudest empress of her age asked, at the very end, only for silence. But her true monument was never that quiet grave. It was struck in metal centuries ago, and it outlasted every man who tried to bury her memory. Her name on the coins of an empire, the farmans, the white marble, the letters of astonished foreigners. All of them say the same thing. You can still hold the proof. History tried to make her a villain, a seductress, a footnote in a weak man's reign. The record refuses it. A refugee's daughter, born on a frozen road, a soldier's widow the court once pitied, rose to rule the richest empire on earth in all but name. And every part of it really happened. We like to believe the walls between people are fixed. Class, status, the old rules of who may rise and who may not. But every so often someone crosses a divide. The whole world swears cannot be crossed, and leaves a mark so deep that 400 years later, we are still turning it over in our hands. History's most unlikely loves, and every one of them is true. Follow along, and we will tell you the next one.